Sir, thank you.
Sri Praful Patel ji.
Sir, the black money bill has been very actively debated for a long time, and all I can say is, sir, that a lot of expectations were raised by the government itself during the elections that there are unlimited sums of foreign monies or assets held by Indians outside the country, and therefore that money will be brought to productive use, and that money will be put into the accounts of individuals at the rate of approximately 15 lakhs or so, and that has caused this kind of an anxiety and an enthusiasm about this black money bill. Sir, the genesis of the black money in our country is our tax regime over the years, when we had 97% tax. We used to go abroad, we used to get $7 a day as our traveling allowance. And all this is the reason why over the years this kind of a malaise has come into our system. Of course, things have radically changed. It's not the same as before. Certainly with better tax regimes, I'm sure compliance has also been better. And I do not want to go into the sums because nobody knows the exact number of the people who have money abroad or the sums which they hold. But I'm sure the BJP in its past avatar in the opposition brought out a paper of black money, a white paper on black money, which I think was one of the bases on which people started talking of astronomical sums of money being stashed by Indians abroad. So I think somewhere down the line, to create this kind of a panic and anxiety, you yourself are responsible to some extent by raising the expectations and the bar on what kind of black money exists outside the country. Sir, ease of doing business is one of the mantras of the government, and rightly so, and I respect that. I remember in the good old days when your government was there, in the NDA government, there was a finance committee which I was associated with, where there was one of the jobs which we were given was to repeal FERA and to bring in FEMA. Why? Because FERA was considered a draconian law. People in an increasingly globalized economy were finding it difficult to comply with the strict provisions of FERA, and that is why FEMA was brought in. Unfortunately, after bringing in FEMA also, authorities have been resorting to using another strict law, which was Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which essentially was brought in by a UN charter where after 9/11 everybody thought that to check the money of terrorism and black narcotics money, this law should be enacted. But our agencies also started using it for normal economic offences because the teeth under FERA was lost and FEMA did not have the requisite penal provisions. But I am just mentioning this as a background so that the government and others also understand that we ourselves have over the years decided that we must have more ease of doing business. In the Commerce Ministerial year, the amount of exports and imports which take place in the country, I would say one of the genesis of this problem lies in our exports and imports of so many goods and services. Today, if you want to look at even the overall situation, sir, I have not even started, sir. In 2 minutes, what I will...
My hands are tied.
Sir, today, we as Indians remit the highest amount of foreign exchange into our country, more than even China. 70 billion is the kind of remittances by Indians from overseas. And that itself is a very important number, which I would say from our economic point of view. Sir, today in our own openness of transacting money with the rest of the world, Indians are allowed to remit $250,000 each year per individual. Now today, even when this is being remitted, there are so many questions which are being asked as to what this money is being used for. So I think there needs to be some kind of a clarity in our objectives as to how we want to treat the free flow of money, goods and capital. Everybody doing business or everybody transacting outside the countries need not be treated as a criminal or be treated with, with suspicion. Today, sir, I read in the Economic Times, today page 7, Mr. Finance Minister, I'm sure you would have read it, There's a report that 80,000 Indians in the last month itself have sought residency in Dubai or Singapore. And I'm sure I don't have any veracity of the figure, but increasingly this kind of talk is happening. I don't wish to attribute any motive to anybody. I'm sure the government and everybody, all of us here, want to see that black money or such undisclosed assets should come back for productive use in our country. They should be legally taxed and all that. But if people living here, primarily doing business in India, are moving outside of India to live abroad and to maybe have some kind of ease of doing business or to avoid some compliances, I think this is some issue which seriously needs to be looked at by the government. I'm being very objective. I'm not attributing no criticism on this issue at all, but I feel, sir, that this needs to be adequately dealt with. While we are bringing this bill, we should also not forget, as Mr. Nachapan said, that we already have the Income Tax Act, we have the Enforcement Directorate, we have the Department of Revenue Intelligence, so many agencies which are already looking at all the aspects and trying to, regulate black money or foreign assets.
Now, please conclude.
So therefore,
please
sir,
conclude.
while international jurisdictions are getting narrower, we also realize post-2017 there will be much more freer flow of information which the government will be able to collect from outside. I think we also need to understand that how economics and the world of commerce and business moves. And I think though there is an SIT appointed by the Supreme Court, I think we also need to educate them also about the larger issues of how international businesses and commerce works. Because people talk of ridiculous amounts. It's very easy to talk that so much of money is outside and this is the way people are, doing black money
Please,
or whatever.
please.
I think very little understanding, and therefore I also feel, sir, that even our own authorities, whether it's the income tax, DRI, ED or so on, they also need to be told to handle things very, very deftly and carefully.
Kindly conclude.
If there is somebody who is genuinely doing wrong, he should be punished. But people who are genuinely transacting just with the eagerness and enthusiasm
Kindly
to
conclude.
try and catch anybody and everybody, that will also work to the detriment of the good intentions with which the government is bringing this bill. So, sir, without saying much, I will only say it's a good step, a step in the right direction, but also I feel over the years, Mr. Finance Minister, you may have to moderate, modulate and regulate this in a more I would say, user-friendly fashion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, honorable members, before I call the name of the next speaker, here is a message from the Lok Sabha. Secretary General.
I beg to report that the Lok Sabha at its sitting held on the 13th of May 2015 passed the Negotiable Instruments Amendment Bill 2015.